Hello.
Welcome to
And welcome.
Berrycast.
I was about to say that, Bradley. What the fuck?
Oh my god, we're on the same wavelength.
I'm gonna
Mind
call Bill
meld.
Hader right now and have him come shoot you.
Welcome to the Bill Hader cast, where I shit on Bill Hader's character
We
for
are
the it
joined
portion.
by special guest Bill Hader. Welcome, Bill.
Hi, I'm the impressionist Bill Hader doing a poor Willer impression.
Bill Hader's not here. Everyone, you can turn off now.
What do you mean? Excuse me? Dude, that's really rude that you would talk like that to Bill Hader. Yeah, that's really rude. Okay, anyways.
You always do these dumb gimmicks.
Anyways,
Anyway,
I'm gonna grab a hold of this mind train. I talked about Barry a few months ago. Actually, I had recently during my binge of Game of Thrones. I saw Barry was on HBO Go. I was like, oh, I'll throw this on while I fold some laundry, and I ended up watching the entire series in about a day and a half, and was just really blown away about it. To give you a brief rundown of what Barry is again, it's essentially just about Bill Hader plays a hitman who decides he doesn't want to be a hitman anymore and wants to take up acting instead. That's the general premise of the show.
man, they use it well.
Yeah, the big difference here is Bradley has now seen it, at least season 1.
Ta-da!
So we're gonna take some time to discuss that, spoiler free at first, then go into spoilers.
Let me lay down the rules here. I wanted to watch season 1 of Barry, but my computer that stores Barry in my legal HBO subscription that is only on that computer, cough cough, it exploded yesterday. Because my luck is actually -5. I've come to
I'm
realize.
actually very worried in 2 weeks when we go to Disney World.
I almost died the other day in the train tracks, but besides that, my luck just keeps getting better. I wanted to watch Barry, I wasn't able to. So what we're gonna do is Bradley's gonna give us like a spoiler-free review, and then I'm gonna step away. It's kind of weird when this happens. It's only really happened for like the Stephen King book that y'all read.
Yeah.
Because y'all's like things don't overlap as much as me and like without me.
Yeah. But Bradley and I don't get a lot of alone time. You gotta give us our own space.
Yeah, I was glad we have Barry.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you your alone time. I'll talk about Barry after you guys are done. I'll take the sloppy seconds or thirds or fourths.
Yeah.
So Bradley, tell us a little bit about Barry.
Yeah.
As much as I can listen to.
So right off the bat, like before I even got into Barry, whenever Joe initially told us about it, I knew that it was going to be the next show on my list. Because like it's so ripe for character development where like you have this guy who, you know, he's like ex-military and he's a hitman, and you know, he gets introduced to acting, and a big part of acting is kind of letting yourself come out of your shell and learning more about yourself. And I was, before I even started the show, I was like, oh man, this is just going to be, you know, based on the premise alone, this is going to be a very character focused show as opposed to just action. So I was just really interested in it. And so then in practice, when you actually get into the show, it's very true to that. We spent a lot of time looking at Barry and exploring like what acting means to him and how acting basically gives you a visual for how he is feeling inside at any given moment. And I think what really sold me on the show in the first few episodes, I think maybe even the first episode, they established very, very early on in the acting class this theme of acting is truth. And I think they say that many times throughout the show. Acting is truth. And if you want to be a good actor, you have to draw upon things that are true to you, things that have happened in your life. You need those real emotions. And so one thing I've talked about before, I think in relation to on our Discord, like in relation to Breaking Bad or some elements of One Piece, I've said that the more something has in common with Worm, obviously my favorite story, the more often they're like, the more likely I am to like it. And a thing I really liked with Barry is that he gets this kind of really tragic positive reinforcement when he's doing acting, where the more he is in that traumatic headspace of thinking about people he's killed, people he's hurt, the more he does these things and thinks about these things, he is in a much more depressed and angry headspace, but he becomes a better actor. And then he gets this positive reinforcement where people tell him how good he did and how great he is at acting whenever he's like that. And
Ooh, that sounds really good, actually.
yeah, and it's kind of incredible how they merge these two halves of his life. I love it.
Yeah. It's there's a great irony in it too, because like acting is about playing pretend or playing a character, and Barry has to essentially play a different character of himself whenever he's in the acting class, because he's really a hitman, like for real, but he has to play as a regular schmo dude while he's in the acting class. There's a lot of layers to this show that I really appreciate. Um, there's a good assortment of side cast characters as well. And Bradley mentioned this for me previously, and I kind of have the same kind of like opinion as him. Their side stories aren't as interesting or as engaging as Barry's. They more or less serve as interruptions and or plot developments that will link back to Barry later.
Yeah, like anything that happens with I don't necessarily remember her name, the detective. Anything that
Boss.
Yeah, anything that happens with her, I think is purely valuable for advancing the plot. I don't at this point anyway, I don't necessarily care about her character a whole lot, but I do think she was necessary for the plot to go the way it did.
And then I feel like every character there isn't like wasted. I just don't think they're as nearly as like prominent or important as Barry is. Like it's not like a One Piece scenario where you can love every character and have feel like every character is a great backstory. It feels like Barry is surrounded by these characters with very human flaws and human conditions and human and like normal circumstances. But because he's in their lives now, he is interrupting them in some way, and they're like rebounding back to him, and he doesn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. And man, like any pretty much the most interesting thing to the show to me is Barry himself, which I guess you usually want your main character to be the most interesting part. Because I was so interested, usually when I was looking at any character who was not Barry, I was just like, what does this character and what they're doing, how does that relate to Barry, and what is that going to do to advance him? And not all the characters do that. Some characters are just kind of there to be fun. But man, like Barry himself, just the premise of his character and the arc he goes through is just 5 out of 5 for me.
Especially just in like that first like season.
Oh yeah, like it's crazy, and we have another season to go, and I like it because I think at the end of season 1 we kind of have an idea of where we could be going with this character, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. I think, is there anything else spoiler free that you want to talk about? Because like there's just a lot that I want to discuss that just will require spoilers about what happens in the show, because there's a lot of like, the great thing about Barry is I feel like every episode is very meaningful and there's a very relevant thing that happens in every episode.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like my feet are being dragged along the entire time.
Yeah, I think that would do for the spoiler-free discussion. If we want to move into the spoiler discussion,
yeah, feel free to kick me out whenever.
Get out of here.
All right, call me when you.
Wait, you can't leave, Willer, because you're recording.
Oh yeah.
No. Hear me out. It's gonna stay on. I'm gonna touch my mouse pad periodically so it doesn't like go to sleep mode, which is why I drop out sometimes.
Okay.
Call me when you're done. Okay, take your time. You can go as long as you want. I'll just be on my Switch and laptop and shit.
Okay.
Have fun, kiddos.
Bye, Mom.
Better not be fucking talking shit about me.
Bye. Hey, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Did you bring the condoms?
Yeah. This is Bradley and Joe cast. Everyone, get comfortable.
Yeah. Well, this is the Harry Berry cast.
Harry Berry cast. There you go.
That's an inside joke for only me and you.
No one else gets it. Everyone else leave. We're just gonna have inside jokes.
Yeah. Okay. So, real quick, you cut out like last I heard about you watching Barry, you cut out in the last 10 minutes. Were you able to watch the last 10 minutes?
Yeah, it was really sad last night. I was
Okay.
watching the last episode of Barry, and then internet cut out when I was 10 minutes from the end of the episode, and I was like, "Fuck!"
Which is really important.
I know. Internet ended up coming back, and I was able to finish it. And holy shit, those were a really good last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I really think season 1 really culminates in those last 2 episodes of the season. Like it really feels like, oh, these are why all these other characters are here in the show, and this is how they relate to the plot. Which it made me feel better about following all their different paths a little bit more, even as if they weren't as engaging as Barry's. But it's like, oh, I see where we were going now and how they ended up connecting.
Yeah, like man, those last few minutes of season 1 are so tense because we've seen this journey that Barry goes on throughout the entire season, how he's trying to change his life to get all this murder behind him. And for a brief moment, we think he might have done it. He's an actor now. He's free of Fuchs.
He's got a girlfriend. He's got like a good father figure in his life that actually cares about him.
Yeah, and things are looking up, and we are on that teetering edge. Is he going to be able to just have a normal life now? And whenever the cards are on the table, and he's put in that tense situation where he has to decide what's best for himself.
Yeah.
We see that he's still capable of these things, and that's how we know, holy shit, we still have character development to do in season 2.
Yeah, so I feel like the big kind of like thing in season 1 for Barry and his character, and you can dispute me if you want, is Barry coming to a realization that he is an actual evil being. Like I think that's what, to me, that's like his whole like arc is coming to his realization of like, oh my god, I have actually hurt people in more ways than I could think of. Because like previously, like he was told he's killing bad guys, and these were just people that like were doing bad things, so he took them out. He didn't realize the ripple effect that it had on the other people in their lives, and he begins to realize that like, oh, like I'm more than just killing somebody. I am destroying other people's lives by eliminating this person from their lives, and it really affects them in a huge way.
It's amazing because, like you said, like in the first episode or two, he does have that mindset of like, oh well, it's okay, I'm killing the bad guys, and he
And
never
he's
really
like done. He's just like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's boring. I really just don't. It's not rubbing me right anymore. I'm just kind of want to walk away from it. That's like his first like feeling about it.
Yeah, and then as we go on, like each progressive person that he has to kill hurts him more and more, and yeah, I think one of the climaxes of this is when he has to kill Chris, and
God, that's such a good scene.
He just can't stop thinking about Chris's family, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to go to her funeral," and it's tragic, really.
Yeah, and it's awful too, because like it's him also kind of having to like, he has this like really kind of like shell on him that he doesn't even realize that he has, that contains all these emotions and these feelings in. And then when he gets into this acting class, I'm like, no, you have to express your emotions to act. And he's like, okay, and he has to become more vulnerable to the world around him. And when he does kill Chris, you can just see that it's like destroying him on the inside. And he gets to, and he's like he's in the taxi or whatever, going to the place, and it's destroying him. And then he has to go say his lines, and he's battling back and forth. And it's tragic because you realize he channels that energy into his performance, and you realize like how terrible it is to be Barry at that point.
Yeah, and it's just crazy how he's able to take these things and, I guess, like they say in the show, use it for his performance. And like I said, it's like a really sad negative like reinforcement where, you know, Sally's like, whatever your process was, you need to do that every time. And you just imagine how much it hurts Barry to hear that in that moment.
Yeah, it's awful. Also, we didn't mention this on the spoiler-free part, but Barry is also a comedy. Like, it's also very funny.
Yeah, it's a really funny show when it is funny.
Yeah.
And I rarely see a show that can balance serious moments and hilarious moments in the same amount. Because,
And
like,
especially like in so much depth too. Like there are extremely funny moments in the show and extremely like heartbreaking and dark moments in the show.
yeah, it's weird because like it'll be a really serious moment, and then I don't know, like he gets a text from Hank, and it's hilarious. But I feel like
Emoji.
in a lot of other shows, that would like break the tension of the scene. We'd be like, oh, it's not a serious scene anymore. Now it's funny. But in Barry, they do it really well where it's really serious. And then we have like 3 seconds where we laugh. And I feel like we're able to just come right back to that serious mood. Like the funny bits never break us.
I think one of the better scenes of that, there's actually tons of them, but one of them that sticks out in that mind is the whole segment where they're at the kids' gymnastics.
Oh, yeah.
And like it starts off with like NoHo Hank, who's one of the better written side characters, I would say, in terms
I
of
love
like
him. I love every line he has is just perfect.
yeah. He's very unique in that he's just like so weird. He's just like crazy. But like it starts off with him saying this like silly text with bitmojis, and then it's them at the gymnastics, and like Barry's a big shit. Like he's in like deep trouble. But that scene is also hilarious. At the same time, you're also like a little bit tense of like what's happening, what's going to happen between all four of them that are there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just uh so mine's the big thing about the show that kind of really, and we already touched on it, I guess, was the Chris scene and that whole part. And the scene with Chris with them in the car is hugely important because it's the first time where Barry chooses to kill somebody not because it's his job but because of his own personal safety.
Yeah. And that and he himself realizes this, and
Yeah.
that's I think that's why he just crumbles after it.
Mm-hmm. It really is the moment where he has to or he like his like that barrier breaks between how he separates himself between like the man and the monster. Like this whole time he can say like, well, it's just the job I've been doing. I want to get out of the job. It's not actually me. I don't actually kill people. That's just the person that does this job. And as soon as that happens, he realizes that, oh no, this isn't my nature to do this thing.
Yeah. And
And
like it really is crazy like that because you get the idea that Barry might just be a guy who is maybe just thrust into the wrong situation because at heart this killer, even though he was able to do these things, that's not who he is. He wants to be a better man, but he, I think, just through the direction his life took, and maybe influenced through Fuchs, put him in this situation.
so, one of the interesting things about the show too, and Bill Hader talked about it, was that especially during the second half of the show, you realize that it's very much Macbeth. That Fuchs
Yes.
is Lady Macbeth, and Barry is Macbeth. Uh, which is incredibly interesting comparison that I didn't realize until I actually, because when I was first watching it, I just skipped all the director commentaries or whatever because I was like, I want to see the next episode. But I think that's a very apt description where like Fuchs is this character that's like a siren to these murders for him.
Yeah.
And it's a great dynamic, and it's really weird because you can go back and forth with Fuchs of thinking like, does he actually care about Barry, or is Barry just his like money ball, his like money maker, golden goose kind of thing? Because there's that scene like after like the car flips when they do the bum rush and everything, and he gets the call saying Barry's dead. That he breaks down. It's hard to tell whether or not he actually cares about Barry or he realizes that he's dead. Essentially, you know, is it self-preservation or is it actual care?
Yeah. And whenever, you know, it's all on the line, um, he actually wanted Barry dead at some point, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's the point where I was able to finally firmly be like, maybe he just never really cared about Barry that way.
yeah, yeah. Season 2 really expands on that relationship between the two of them. Just so you know, which I
Yeah.
think is a really good thing because I think that relationship is the most interesting relationship out of all the relationships Barry has with everyone else.
Yeah, we need to hit on it more.
We do for sure in the next season. And we talked about the very ending of the show with uh, Detective Moss being killed, which I did not see coming like at all. I
Oh
thought
yeah,
she would
me
be a
too.
regular character that was kind of always going to be suspicious of Barry, and Barry was going to have to like work around it because he didn't want to kill um, his father figure's girlfriend, basically. And when he does just kill her, you're just like, oh fuck.
Yeah, like I thought it was going to be kind of like an ongoing thing where she like progressively gets closer and closer to like having evidence that he really is this man, but she never gets quite there, and it's kind of like a chess game. But he really did take her out, and I think it, even though it was unexpected, I don't think it was like uncalled for or anything. I think it was the perfect way to end season one.
No, I think so too. And it's just it adds that last bit of tension to like really sell to you that like Barry's never going to be safe, essentially.
Yeah,
Like his past is like connected to him, it's latched onto him and it's stuck to him. And he's screwed. Like this is something he's always got to deal with and something he's gonna continue working to deal with. The only person we haven't talked to about I feel is Sally, who is the weakest character of this season.
yeah, and I think you did say that she maybe gets more attention in season two.
Mm-hmm.
I my initial impression of Sally was I just really don't like this girl, and that like there are characters in shows and books and movies where they might be a character I hate as a person, but like I love them as a character.
Right.
Um, Sally, I don't think was necessarily either. And I was really worried that I might just be missing what the show is trying to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I tried Googling it. I tried Googling like Barry Sally, and the first several results were like Sally's the most hated woman on television. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm not the only maybe I'm not the only person who feels this way.
Yeah.
But I feel like she's not hated on accident. I think the show must be trying to do something with her.
I so Sally's a really big enigma. I'm watching season 2 again. Just like freshen myself up. I watched all of season 1 as well. And it's watching her. The big thing about Sally is that she seems like the bad sitcom kind of thing. Or
Yeah,
like she feels like if you're watching like a bad sitcom about theater actors and she was the main character of this show, this is what she would be. Um and I think she's supposed to kind of be our control group for Barry and his relationship to theater acting. That like Sally is the bread and butter like girl that moves to Hollywood, is a barista, is like trying out for all these different jobs, and only gets these like schmucky jobs and whatever. And she needs a big break. Like she's our kind of like connection point to reality for us to Barry to like the theater group basically.
yeah,
Um I season 2, I feel like she gets a lot better. She like very much in season 1, you like coming off about like she's manipulative. I don't like her. She's just kind of like she kind of sometimes felt forced. I feel like in season 2, there's a much better job of having her kind of be like this is the only person that like Barry is able to care for now, basically.
yeah,
And like it's important for Barry's character that he has someone that is a personal goal essentially to be like, you know. I feel like that's what her purpose is Barry's like goalpost in terms of like I want to be to the point where I can be with this person and not have to worry about everything else.
yeah,
Essentially, that's the best what can come out of. I still think she's the weakest character of the show, even through watching season 2. I think she's better, but I don't think she's as good as like NoHo Hank or Fuchs or um Kosanow. I think that's what his name is, the teacher.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, she's but like season 1, her part definitely is to kind of be this like motivational force for Barry in the acting, both as a romantic interest and as a kind of like Barry thinks she's great at acting and wants to be like her essentially.
yeah. And I do think that we did need her in the show, and I think as like from the beginning to the end, she kind of progresses from being a good influence for Barry to a bad influence for Barry. Where the beginning, he needed her. She is kind of what inspired him to go on this life, to become an actor. And in kind of his early state, she was very encouraging for him, even when he wasn't that great. And then kind of in the second half of the season, she kind of moves to this negative influence where interactions with her put him in this bad headspace where he's more likely to do these bad things.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of interesting how she's used as a motivator
Mm-hmm.
or demotivator for Barry.
Yeah, it's she really is like very much, especially like I feel like at the beginning of season one, she sounded very selfless, and then by the end of season one, you're like, oh, she's pretty selfish in what she's trying to attain.
Yeah,
Like she needs Barry to do well so she can be recognized by this agent in the show floor or whatever in the theater, so she can then get on his agency or whatever and start getting gigs.
yeah.
But I think it's a good way to show like the cutthroatness of Hollywood and really show like this is like kind of what's happening. This is what Barry's essentially ignoring because he has to deal with this rather than like having to deal with the drama of Hollywood. He has to deal with the drama of murdering people.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you want to talk about, Bradley?
I think one other thing that I really loved about the show I wanted to kind of talk about. I feel like there is kind of a wide selection of characters that fundamentally are Barry, but with one or two small components of their character changed. That just kind of give you a glimpse into what Barry could be or could have been. I think
like Taylor.
Yeah, like a good example is Taylor. Like if I wanted to describe Barry, I would say he is a fundamentally good person, capable of both good and bad, and just kind of the roll of the dice where the way his life went, he ended up in the situation where he's doing bad things.
Yeah.
Taylor, on the other hand, is just a fundamentally a monster. He's a monstrous person. Unlike Barry, he did not have his life go that direction. He had a relatively normal life where he went to the military and then he left, and maybe he got in fights now and then. And so they're like a really stark contrast. In I think it just makes it all the more apparent that the kind of life Barry lived, being a hitman, that is not suited for him. It's suited for someone like Taylor who thrives in that environment. Barry does not thrive in that environment, even though he's good at it.
Yeah.
I think another character that is kind of like Barry with one component changed would be NoHo Hank, where
interesting.
Both of them kind of just the roll of the dice, maybe where they were born, the people they knew, the way their life went, they end up in these lives of crime. But NoHo Hank, I think, even though he can do these terrible things, I think he only does it because he is such a people's person. He wants to be everyone's friend, and I don't think he is fundamentally a monster. I think he wants to be a good guy, and when everything's on the line, we see him reach out to Barry and want to save Barry because Barry is his friend, and I thought that was interesting.
And it's both interesting because they also, what's interesting about those two characters itself is that they both choose to stay in this criminal lifestyle. Like NoHo Hank, after everything happens, like he could have just walked away. He'd been like, "Oh, well, okay, well, I'll go like start a bakery." Like I honestly thought he was gonna go like do his own shit, and like Barry would run into him and stuff like that. But he ends up joining the Bolivians instead.
Yeah. He needs to find his thing. He needs to find his, like Barry found acting. I think if NoHo Hank found something, he could be happy doing that.
And then on the opposite side, Taylor just was like, he was like the, your druggie, wants to do drugs, get a bunch of money, get chicks. Like
he, like in ordinary life that Barry and even I think NoHo Hank could be happy with, he hates it. He thrives on that violence. He wants to do this.
Yeah. The one character I was going to bring up though was Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is the is like if we're looking at like a four figure where like Barry is a good person in the wrong circumstance, Taylor is a bad person in his correct circumstance, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Chris is a good person that ended up in the right place where he's supposed to be. Like he went in the Marines, he was like he did his time there. He got a family, had a kid, is living a really great life. Like he's just like he's like, my life's great. I got a hot wife, I got kids, I got a good job. Like he is just living it, and it's basically everything Barry wants, even if he doesn't realize it.
And
we have these flashbacks. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say like we have these like imaginations that Barry has of like him and Sally getting married and owning a house and having John Hamm over for a barbecue and them having dinner with their kids and talking to their kids and taking them to school. Like that's everything that that Chris has.
Yeah.
So when Barry has to kill Chris, it's even more like of a sting because Barry just basically said that I'm willing to kill this like side of me if it means I get to like still be like if it saves me.
Yeah, Chris was another one of those characters who I was like, he's Barry, but with this one fundamental personality trait changed. And like when Chris is forced to kill someone, we just see him break down and he just can't live with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Barry sees him not be able to live with it. And while I do think Barry's a fundamentally good person, and even Barry at this point realized that he is and wants to be a fundamentally good person, I think he feels guilty that he has never felt as guilty as Chris does after killing someone.
I was gonna say it's more of like Chris is like that pure like good character, and that's who like who Barry thought he always was, basically.
Yeah, and Barry has to wonder, if I've never felt the way he does after killing someone, am I actually a monster?
Yeah,
man,
I think that's the big thing.
It's so crazy.
Anyways, the show's hilarious. We didn't talk about the jokes because that's the worst thing you could possibly spoil.
Yeah.
But no, if you're in for a good laugh, go watch Barry. If you're in for a very insightful and thoughtful thought about like what makes a good and bad person and your actions behind it, go watch Barry and The Good Place. If you want good laughs. So yeah. But I think that's all I had to talk about for season 1. I can't wait for season 2.
It was a good fucking show.
Yeah. Season 2 has one of my favorite episodes of television ever, which probably will be like a baby episode for you in Breaking Bad. But like, there's an episode in there that I watched. I watched it 3 times because I was in awe of it, but also because it made me terrified. I had to stop watching it. Yeah. But yeah, well, I don't know what your schedule is going to be like for finishing it up, but we'll talk about it when we get there. And Will will probably say something at one point too.
Because like initially going into season 1, this was like my trial run. I was like, I need to watch Joe's show because I want to kind of know more what he's into. So it was a trial run, and now that I finished it, I was like, this is a show that I would like to finish.
Yes. All right. Well, I guess we'll contact Willer now.
Yeah, let's see if we can get Willer back in here.
I call him, so I'm gonna call Willer on his phone.
Yeah, he didn't want us to call him. I heard a beep.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a doo doo doo.
Hello?
There he is.
Hi.
Man, that was one of my favorite talks I've done on the podcast.
Yeah,
that was a really good one.
Talks without me are great. Good to know.
No, Barry is a really dense show, like in the good way, not the dumb way. Like there's a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah. I can't wait to jump in whenever
Yeah, you'll be able to watch the show and then listen to our podcast and come talk to us on the podcast.
I finally have a reason to listen to the Roundabout cast. All right.